Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Sitters. I'm the president of VinConnect, and it is my great pleasure today to introduce Pepe Raventós, the proprietor of Raventós y Blanc in Spain. Raventós is a historic estate in northeastern Spain, not far from Barcelona, where they are regarded as the benchmark producer of Spanish sparkling wines made in the classical method. The estate's been owned by the family for more than 500 years and actually created Spain's first sparkling wine in 1872. Pepe is his family's 21st generation working the same land and is renowned among winemakers worldwide for his progressive and comprehensive approach to biodynamic farm making and winemaking. I'm thrilled to have him join us today to talk more about the emergence and evolution of biodynamic winemaking and the changes he is driving to advance the quality and reputation of Spanish sparkling wine. Welcome, Pepe. It's great to see you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. This is a very, very generous and very accurate presentation.
Well, I'm glad we're off on the right foot. Well, I was wondering if maybe as a place to start, you might be able to give our audience a brief introduction to the history of your estate and the sparkling wines that are your primary production today.
I think it's important for the people that are listening and looking at us today is to know where we are speaking from. This is our family estate that you mentioned very well. It's belonged to the family since 1497, documented maybe earlier because we are in the Mediterranean shores. Our location is 40 miles west of the city of Barcelona in northern Penedès. This is the northeast of Spain. And it's a very, very historical viticulture valley. Since the Greeks and the Roman empires started to locate here in this area. So we're talking about 3,000 years ago. The estate is about 300 acres of vineyards and forests, small Mediterranean pine forests, a lake, a small reservoir with a water source. And this is where we live. We, with my wife, Susana, our now 3 of our 4 children. The oldest one is studying in the United States, by the way. And our animals, and of course, the team that is who makes things happen. So here we are.
And tell us about the scope of your production today in terms of sparkling wines and maybe still wines, the grape varieties you use, et cetera.
I am working in 3 projects, all in Penedès. I am not very keen on the flying winemaker thing, probably because very, very old school and very limited, right, here in Catalonia. The main responsibility is to continue the family tradition of Raventós y Blanc, trying to bring to the world what might be considered the most mineral sparkling wine because of the combination of Xarel·lo in our Camerigian limestone. We can talk about this later if it's of your interest. Then the second project is called Vins Pepe Raventós. It's a small garagist project of natural wines that I started to make in 2014 in our garage with the grape Xarel·lo, realizing the immense potential of aging and conservation to make wines without any additive whatsoever with that grape. And then the third project where we are putting much effort lately is called Can Sumoy, and this is a still wine project in the mountains of southern Penedès. South Penedès is about 30 miles southwest of where we are now. Okay. It's in the province of Tarragona. So Catalonia has 4 provinces: Barcelona, that everybody knows; Girona in the north with the Costa Brava, that almost anybody knows; and then Lleida and Tarragona, that almost nobody knows. So Tarragona is extremely important, where the Romans put their capital more than 2,000 years ago for 2 empires, and it's super gifted for winemaking. This is where Priorat winemaking region is. This is where Terra Alta winemaking region is, and this is where Southern Penedès winemaking region is, and Conca de Barberà as well. And in high altitude, about 2,000 feet elevation in that province, we found an abandoned estate, and we are recuperating. This is called Can Sumoy.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. So that all keeps you real busy.
We are all too busy nowadays, aren't we?
Indeed. Well, I'm curious. Maybe you could share with folks your early career as a winemaker. Where you studied, and before you took over the family estate, how that sort of shaped your approach to the winemaking you choose to do now, and what you implement.
Well, as you know, life is a lot about serendipity. My passion, my original passion is social work, actually. But in the 90s, my father was having a lot of difficulties in the state. We had to sell some vineyards and our family house to survive. And my uncle convinced my father that I was not very bright, but hardworking person enough to join him and try to help. So I started to work in the wine by necessity. But as many of us that we enter this world by one way or another, I suddenly and soon and fast fell in love with the wine. I realized I wanted to take the prestige of the area to the next level, and that I needed to train myself as a winemaker. I did my Masters of Enology and Viticulture in the University of Agronomy Engineering in Madrid, and then Master Sommelier for 2 years in Barcelona. But most important, I did some harvest internships in France. That's what really gave my passion for terroir. No, I was
Hmm.
very fortunate amongst all. I've been in Burgundy, I've been in Champagne, but most fortunate I was 2004 at Domaine de Guénot, and that harvest was a game changer for me.
Wow, that's fascinating. So, how did you end up there, and what in particular was it about that harvest that really opened your eyes?
My father's best friend, Miquel Bufill, was the representative of Didier in Spain, and he helped us with the connection. And I think, uh, you know, for me, the most important in wine is nature, because my passion since I was a kid is nature, because my parents gave me the opportunity to love nature. We used to spend
Hmm.
a holiday in the mountains and in a very wild area with very humble people, surrounded by animals and the lifestyle up in the Pyrenees. No? And that way of understanding the power of soil or the combination of soil and plant that
Hmm.
Didier developed as nobody else in Pouilly-Fumé, right?
Sure.
And creating wines that could rival white Burgundy at a moment that white Burgundy was untouchable, for me was
Hmm.
really, really very, very powerful. At the same time, the Didier style was a very, I would say, progressive, very mind changeable, very strong, hardworking person, but at the same time very human. We would have a dinner with the harvest people every night. We would go together to visit the fermentation tanks and barrels after. So it
Hmm.
would be very casual. So that combination of being very strict at work, but at the same time very casual, is something that I feel very comfortable, and I don't find in many other regions.
Oh, that's fascinating. Well, maybe you could talk a little bit about then the sort of farm making and or sort of farming and winemaking approach in terms of organics and biodynamics. I think it might be helpful for people who've heard a lot about those things, but maybe don't really have a sense for what they are and what they mean, because the definitions can be somewhat nebulous or diffuse. Maybe you could
Yeah,
you could explain a little bit about those, and then how those are how you interpret or implement those at Raventos.
yeah. Excuse me, I'm not sure if the right person, but I am trying to simplify a lot the equation. So for me, the big movement is organic, and
Okay.
organic appears at the last years of the 20th century, and basically is a way for people that want to work with more respect towards nature and towards making food and wine, put on the label and inform the consumer,
Hmm.
because working organic is more expensive. It's more expensive, the yields are lower, but the level of respect to nature, thus to the human body that consumes, is very important. So I think this
Sure.
is the big movement, and for me, it's a no-brainer. No, biodynamics is definitely a step forward, but also at the same time is a little bit more complicated, because the journalists and we the winemakers that like to tell weird things in order to sell our wines, and that's one of the problems of our industry, create that that the idea of the preparations, the 501 preparations that you need to basically the 500, what you do is that you put cow manure into cow horns and you bury it in your vineyards, in some part of the vineyards, and then you take it away and then you mix it with water and apply it to the soil to connect the roots with the mineral of the earth. That's the
Hmm.
500 preparation. The 501 is similar, but instead of putting cow manure, you put silex, uh, like salt, silex salt,
Yep.
in the
Silicon. Yep.
cohorts, and then you mix it with water and you apply it to the leaves to connect them better with the light. So those are preparations that help your vines perform more, your plants perform more, but are not the essence of biodynamics. The essence of biodynamics is the recuperation of the farm organism, where animal, man, and plant live together in a closed ecosystem. No? And I found
Hmm.
this very powerful. It's kind of like recuperating that lost past into the future of winemaking. Instead of me being very technological and very precise, being more relaxed and more trust in nature and being more, I would say, honest to the place. No, and that's, I
Hmm.
think, the
Hmm.
beauty of wine. No, so again, organic, I think, is a big movement. It's very simple. You are not allowed to put certain materials, certain chemicals into the vineyards, not the winemaking. The
Hmm.
what you put to protect from insects or fungi is more limited and controlled, and then you put this on the label. I think this is very important, and it's very strict in Europe. I don't know about other parts of the planet when you
Hmm.
put the organic label. Biodynamic is a little bit more complex. The level of chemicals that you can add is smaller, but you really recuperate that farm organism. You make your own compost. You work looking at the moon cycles and the planet cycles,
Hmm.
etc.
Hmm. And I know, having visited you at the estate, the integration of sort of the farm and the animals into the system is, I think, different than maybe we see at a lot of other sort of winemaking estates. That entire sort of ecosystem involving the animals, everything from the microorganisms to the horses and things that you use in the vineyards, all sort of work together in a very integrated way.
My dear friend Andy Page in Chicago told me, Pepe, the best marketing is no marketing. So it's important to share, in my opinion, that this is not about marketing. It's not about a petting zoo. It's that every animal has to have its own job.
Hmm.
So if you have horses, they need to plow, and they need to plow certain old vineyards that, with machinery you would break them, because they are 100-plus-year-old bush vines of Xarello or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, if you have a herd of sheep or goats, they have to be grazing, they have to be cleaning the forests, they have to be providing meat for the family, for the visits, etc. This is really, like, I have seen the ancient small farms work in this idea of different animals, everything. That way of living, it was very humble, and they would really use its little opportunity that nature would give. No, so for example, even you have in between vineyards, you have some space. You plant olive trees, and you make some
Hmm.
olive. In the big slopes where there is nothing being able to grow, maybe you have some almond trees with mixed with a couple of olive trees that they are very resistant. No, in the fields that are resting, you plant a cereal, you plant barley, for example, with which you fix nitrogen into the soil. At the same time, you're producing food for your animals that are living in the farm, and these animals are creating their own compost. With this compost, you support the old vineyards that are suffering more, or the soils that are more poor and need more support. No, so it's really about using every little part of nature, understanding the climate, the soils, the rainfall, and everything. And I spent some time living in New York and working the American market to get our humble region be a little bit more known. And I learned a lot. Now we've been living back in the farm for 9 years, and it's wonderful to see that I don't know anything, and that every year I spend here, maybe I learn a tip of something, but makes me want to, in a way, to be more present in the place, to be more respect with the place, meaning more combined with the place, not in a
Hmm.
shady way, but in a more part of
Hmm.
kind. Sorry for my English.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's interesting that you say that. Have you met Enrico Rivetto from Piemonte?
No, but I would, if you recommend, I would love. And Piemonte is high on my list. I visited quite several occasions lately
Yeah.
because we're working with a Sumoil grape that has certain similitudes with Nebbiolo.
Oh, fascinating. Yeah, no, and Enrico and his family have a very similar sort of integrated, comprehensive, natural sort of approach to winemaking and philosophy that I think is very in line with the way you guys see the world, and I think you'd find each other like minded. So I'll try to make that introduction. I think that'd be cool.
What is the name of the state?
Rivetto.
Riveto, perfecto.
Yeah, yeah, they're in Serralunga. Sort of back on the topic of organic and biodynamic, I think your overview of those is will really be helpful for people to try to understand what that means, both in general and for your wine specifically. But I think some consumers may have a question about, that all sort of sounds good, but what does it mean to me? Can I taste it? What does it taste like? Is it better? If so, in what way? And I don't know, maybe you can give some impressions of that as well. It's not just a concept, but there are actually results associated with it.
Definitely. I think it's not just a concept of production, is a concept of understanding. Is a concept of coherence. No, in my opinion, the beauty of wine is to be able to enjoy places. No, to
Mm-hmm.
enjoy places in a bottle. No, of course, in company, but it sometimes is a little bit, we abuse a little bit too much of that social aspect of wine, which definitely is intrinsic, but it's not the essence. The essence is the place. No, the place means that behind a bottle of wines there are so many things. No, there's the effort of people, but more important, there's the effort of a lot of things that combine that place: nature, soil, microorganisms. And if you really fall in love with that idea of place, it's not just about the pleasure. I mean, there's opportunity for a lot of different aspects of tasting that evolve in your life. Sometimes I like more mature, sometimes I like less mature, sometimes I want more freshness, sometimes I feel more like a fresh wine, it's hot, sometimes the diversity is very beautiful. But one common thing of all is that they are really honest and they speak about where they are made. No, and I think that's amazing. No, and that we can share a bottle in so many places, but they bring us back to another place, and
Yeah.
uh, and so when you work in organic and more so in biodynamic, I think you're really forcing all you're aligning all the forces into being that place, the protagonist, not the winemaker, not the recipe. Now it's more wood or less wood, more
Right.
stems, less stems, or it's really about making that place speak. And so I think it's been a very, very positive aspect, and that really, for the consumer that it drinks a lot of wine and really is falling in love with this idea, I think is very powerful.
Interesting. So I guess maybe to summarize what you're saying is the the approach of organics and biodynamics allows the wine to better express the place that it comes from in the most sort of wholesome, all encompassing sense. Um, and
Exactly, because in essence, Kevin, organic and biodynamic, what they do is they restrict the possibility of human and chemical intervention.
right, right,
So
right.
it gives the protagonist to the nature.
Fantastic. That's a really helpful framework to think about it. I appreciate you putting it that way, and I think that will help folks understand. Um, just to transition for a moment away from that, more generally, you mentioned where you are in the region you're in, having been sort of traditionally associated with or defined as the region for Cava. But I think it was about a dozen years ago now, you guys decided to step away from the regional designation and sort of carve your own path. And I'd love it if you talk more about what the driver of that was in the first place, and then what you've been doing since then in terms of trying to build a reputation and awareness for the broader region sort of in the marketplace around the world.
Yes, these are the things that you don't do for selling the wine. You do trying to be coherent, no? And
Yeah.
uh, and I am not somebody to teach about coherence to anybody, but really the driver behind leaving the appellation, which we love, and my grandfather built in the 70s. It was a matter of coherence. Cava has become a great value sparkling wine from Spain that, in a way, is rivaling the Prosecco alternative. So
See?
it's a beautiful, fresh, refreshing. Prosecco maybe is more fruiting. Cava, I think, is more complex, has a second fermentation in the bottle, etc. But still, that link to origin and to nature of Cava had disappeared. No,
Mm.
the reason why Cava had been created in northern Penedès, etc., had evolved to a more unsophisticated, great value wine. We are a small producer, family producers. We love our territory, and as we think Cava is important for Spain, there is really an important need to create a different framework, excuse me, in Northern Penedès to put our sparkling wines to where we believe they deserve. This is a region that is one of the most important in the world for viticulture. We are in the Mediterranean climate. That's where the vines, the olive trees, and the almond trees belong to.
Mm-hmm.
This is where, if you want to make viticulture organic, biodynamic, minimal intervention, respectful, is more appropriate. We have limited rainfall. We have droughts. We suffer, but that's where the plant
Yeah.
itself behaves in a more pure way, and where still today the biggest enemy of any viticulture in the world is humidity that creates
Mm-hmm.
fungi. You are in Virginia, if I don't am
Oh,
not mistaken,
yes.
and you know the challenges that your colleagues viticulturists have in Virginia. No?
Of course.
So in many other places, Virginia, Bordeaux, or many places in the world. So for us, really, this is we have to put into value this, and also the fact of having one of the top grapes in the white world pyramid. There is
Mm-hmm.
people think Chardonnay is on the top. In my opinion, Xarel·lo is on the top, but we still have to work so people understand this. Why? Because I have Chardonnay planted here in the past, and
Mm-hmm.
when it ripens, there is no acidity.
Hmm.
The fruit is very dominant. While the Xarel·lo in Penedès is very fresh, it shows a lot of balance, amazing aging capability. It's very reductive, and at the same time, it's not fruity. It's about gives the protagonism to the roots of the plant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The combination of that Camerician limestone and the Xarel·lo makes the beautiful mineral sparkling wines, and so that's why we declassify, and we're working to create an appellation. You said very well 12 years ago. We're still negotiating with the Catalan government, talking to farmers, and building towards this long-term vision.
Mm-hmm. And have others sort of followed you? Like, what is the progress been in the development of that? I'm just
Yes,
curious.
yes, absolutely. First, we were considered like the rebels and the crazy area, but we started a revolution. A few years later, in 2015, Classic Penedès was created as an appellation of a sparkling wine from Penedès, a bit
Mm.
inspired in Cremant de Bourgogne, which improved these ideas. And then in 2018, and there is also another association called Corpinat. In this case, it's not an appellation; it's a brand association of farmers that declassified from Cava and are trying to make things in a better standard. So
Mm-hmm.
we are in a revolution moment. We still don't want to give up on our vision of having an appellation that is only for sparkling wine, where the valleys, the villages, and the vineyards are the true protagonists.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this revolution will end up with something very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's certainly an exciting time, and I think from a quality standpoint in the marketplace, I mean, you guys have really done a great job of pushing far above and beyond, you know, uh, you know, the traditional sort of regional market presence, if you will, for what Cava has been, and part of helping um, realize, I think the vision you're looking for has to be driven by proving in the market that you can make wines that are absolutely exceptional and world class on the sparkling stage, that really fit a different definition.
Yes, thank you, Kevin. You in America taught me don't hate the players, change the game. So that's what we tried to do in 2012. And here's the question that people may ask themselves: is, well, what is this family? They do this, and they have these wines that retail for $30, no? And it seems that the quality level is champagne level. So why the price is half of it, or two-thirds of it, no? And it's very simple. Champagne has done such a great job in the past that they have created a magic brand, and today an hectare in Champagne costs more than $1 million. No, best hectare in Northern Penedès costs $50K, and this means that this is not a real estate business. This is a
Right.
true winemaking business, and we can make as much effort or even more. But I think also another American quote I learned: under promise and over deliver. No, we
See?
vintage date every bottle. We do 18 months on the lease, only committed to indigenous grapes of the territory. We are paying price per kilo, which is still half the price that they pay in Champagne per kilo of grapes. We work with the best farmers in the region, apart from what we grow at home. And we try to make our best effort. So I strongly want to encourage everybody to follow what we're doing here in the Conca del Riuanoia, and in general, what my colleagues are doing here in Northern Penedès is an amazing proposition. If you love sparkling wine, and more so if you are more into this idea of minerality and dry, what Xarel·lo has to offer is fantastic. Great gastronomy combination, etc. No?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you, but this is an interesting story. There is a person here behind me. You see, in that square is Manel Raventós Domènech. Manel Raventós Domènech created the trilogy Xarel·lo Parellada de Macabeu in 1890, and he has some. He did a lot of travels, and he was a very smart man, not like me, and he would write quotes, etc. And he has one that's very, very cool. He says, my colleagues from Champagne want to convince me that their terroir is the best of the world for making sparkling wine. This seems totally inverosimil, like I don't know the translation for English. It's like this seems very inverosimil to me, very crazy to me. Because wouldn't it be a casualty that Dom Perignon would make by casualty the sparkling wine in the place in the world that is the best to make the sparkling wine?
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
It's a great marketing. Definitely, they have made the best sparkling wines in the past, but it's not the best region. So we have to broaden our perspective, such as with red or white wines, we can drink wonderful, precious bottles from many different geographies in the world, and they bring us to these places, no?
To different places, absolutely. Well, I wanted to ask about still wines. I mean, we mentioned that briefly earlier. You guys do make some still wines as well as the sparkling, and I had mentioned before we started, I had a bottle of the 2018 Vinya del Noyer, if I pronounced that correctly.
In Catalan means walnut.
Fantastic! That was just absolutely delicious and profound. The expression of the Xarel·lo in still format really isn't like any other immediately comparative sort of white wine. It's incredibly gastronomic, incredibly minerally driven, perfect foil for dinner. And so it's I'm just curious how you view still wines as part of your production and sort of the implications of that in the larger context of the estate.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin, for being too generous with our Noguer vineyard, our walnut vineyard. This is a 60-plus-year-old plants, bush vines of Xarel·lo, east slopes, sandy soils, about 1,000 feet elevation. We really love this vineyard, and it's performing fantastic, vinified in natural. To answer your question, for us, the most important aspect of any of our sparkling or still wines is the vineyard. Second, the vineyard, and third, the vineyard. So really, if Xarel·lo has to really arrive somewhere in the sparkling wine, why not also propose it with a still wine, so people can really travel to this part of the world by tasting what this grape has to offer, no? So again, I think the capacity of aging, the balance, that mineral salinity sensations, this wine that you mentioned is natural. It has no intervention except temperature control during fermentation, and try to be as clean and detail oriented during the winemaking as possible. So I think it's a must, no? And I
Hmm.
dream of the Penedès of Xarel·los and Sumolls, again, where the valleys and the villages and the vineyards are the protagonists. And this has to happen because it's very important for the territory. The farmers have suffered a lot in the past because of not well planned industrial demographic,
Hmm.
small price per kilo of grape, and the potential is here. So we're really excited about working in this direction.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. Well, I I think we've done a great job, covering some of the major points and things as it relates to Raventós y Blanc. Are there any other sort of general comments or observations you'd like to make before we wrap up?
I want to thank you very much, Kevin, for giving time to us and putting our small family vineyard in the world. We, as I said in the beginning of the recording, we passed a lot of difficulties in the 90s. We learned winemaking is the most passionate job in the world, but the business is about making people understand what we're doing. And so I thank you for this. Also, to share with our friends that are listening to us, encourage everybody to come to Penedès. Everybody wants to go to Barcelona, great, but don't forget, 1 hour away of Barcelona, there are many beautiful things. Come to Penedès, come to Empordà, come to Tarragona, come to Spain.
Hmm.
The level of food at the restaurants at this moment is incredible. I think is this the country has thanks to our mother culture that is very strong
Hmm.
in diversity in products, etc. But at the same time, Ferran Adrià El Bulli started a new approach and make people believe in us. The level of gastronomy in Spain is ridiculous. Yes, maybe just to finish, go to Calcim, what might be the best restaurant in the world in a humble way. It's a family restaurant in Sant Pau d'Ordal, a village 10 minutes away from here called Shim, Xim.
Oh, okay.
Mother cooking old recipes, two brothers, one grilling, the other one in the room.
Yeah.
Great wine program, only local wines, and casual local people, communal table,
Yeah.
fireplace. So go to Calcim.
All right. That sounds fantastic. Well, Barcelona, one of my favorite places in the world. Your estate, one of my favorite places to visit. I'm overdue to get back, so I'll look forward to having the chance to do that sometime soon.
Thank you, Kevin. Anytime.
Yeah. Thanks for your time, Pepe. I really appreciate it. And thanks for everyone for listening. And we'll look forward to chatting again sometime soon. All right. Ciao.